Welcome to Remembering the Forgotten, a space where leaders think out loud without polish or performance. No scripts, no performance, just two people thinking out loud. These conversations aren't about delivering insight. They are about thinking together in real time. Because there are moments where you can feel that the answer is already there, but you can't quite reach it. And then something shifts, and suddenly it's simple. Not new, just clear. And that's this space. Because what if nothing important about you was ever lost? There comes a moment in many lives when the story that once gave everything meaning quietly begins to feel too small. Not because the story was wrong, not because we failed, but because we've outgrown the identity we unconsciously built our life around. Today, I'm joined by Celinne Da Costa. Celinne has spent years working with founders, executives, and visionary leaders at moments where success no longer answers the deeper questions they are beginning to ask. The career may be thriving. The influence may continue to grow. From the outside, everything appears to be moving exactly as planned. Yet underneath it all, many discover an unexpected tension. The person the world knows and the person quietly waiting to emerge are no longer the same. Our conversation explores the stories we unknowingly inherit, the identities we construct in order to belong, and what becomes possible when those stories no longer define the person living them. We talk about leadership, human connection, authentic expression, transitions between identities, and why the life we are meant to live often begins where the performance quietly ends. And perhaps beneath all of it sits an even quieter realization. We don't become ourselves by writing a better story. We become ourselves when we no longer confuse the story with the one who has been living it all along. And that is where today's conversation begins. With that, Celinne, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm just nodding along. Yeah, yeah. As you're
I saw
speaking.
that.
Yes, sir. Yes.
It's telling. No, it's really good to have you here, Celinne.
Thank
Looking
you.
forward to our session.
Me too.
So, before we begin, where can you just be yourself, untouched by expectation or performance?
Well, I would say around my friends and my partner, and I guess that's a very good sign, that I surround myself with people that I can just be who I am with.
It's actually beautiful how your eyes lit up when you mentioned
Yeah.
that. You
Yeah.
can tell.
Yeah. It's funny. When you do like the personal development seminars, especially earlier on in my journey, and they introduce you to the life wheel. And I remember there was one of these, the first time I ever heard about it is they give you the life wheel and then they split it up into, I don't know, it depends on the school, but like 8 categories. It's like health and um, friends and relationships and family and career and money and I don't know which self-care. I don't know. I don't remember all of them, but the little pie that is friends and personal relationships has pretty consistently throughout my life been a 9 or 10 out of 10.
Interesting.
So I think it's really helped my process of being able to be who I am.
So does that mean you reflect a lot in interaction with other people?
I would say for as long as I can remember, human connection relationship has been a priority for me. And so surrounding myself with very high quality, high caliber human beings where I can feel where there's safety, there's trust, there's love,
Mm-hmm.
has always been important to me. As a result of that, when that environment is created, then we feel the ease of being able to be completely ourselves with
Mm-hmm.
time, of course, and
Mm-hmm.
deconditioning.
So very cool. Some conversations we had, one to one. Why would you say is exactly that safety and that trust qualities that most people long for, but actually don't even know how to describe anymore what it is and then how it feels?
Mm. It's funny. I was just having a conversation with a founder who doesn't trust people. But then, of
Mm-hmm.
course, as we were going through the layers, it's really about him not trusting himself and all
Mm-hmm.
of the ways that that's manifesting in his issues with, attracting investors and team issues and all those things. But I share this
Mm-hmm.
because what I've noticed is that many, many people, they don't trust themselves and they don't feel safe within themselves. And because of
Mm-hmm.
that, they tend to project that as one does. We project that outwardly. And what I have found in my experience is that safety and trust is self sourced, and it has to be
Mm-hmm.
self sourced for us to live happily and peacefully.
So I do something which I rarely do. I flip the table. So I would like to hear from you. Why do you think that especially our society is at that point where self-trust and self-assurance, like real self-assurance, not that pseudo or bullshit thing that's being propagated. Why do you think that is at an all-time low? What has happened
Mm,
between born and let's say age 35 plus?
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's a great question. Hmm. My theory is that as access to information increases, self trust decreases, especially if we have not had the proper training or education of what it actually means to connect to ourselves and to something greater than ourselves first, which I also find is getting particularly lost, especially in Western
Mm-hmm,
society.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Um, we live in a world where information about life, things, other people is increasingly accessible, like just in the
mm-hmm,
click of a button. If you and I were
mm-hmm,
having this conversation even like 5 years ago, we would have talked about social media and how we can just consume
mm-hmm,
data and information and news that aren't even checked or verified within seconds. And
mm-hmm,
even before then, the internet and how like you can just Google anything that you want and get any kind of answer without a lot of gating. And even now,
mm-hmm,
but now like the whole freaking game has changed because now you have AI and you can get like
mm-hmm,
this custom, immediate, all of the information you could possibly want filtered to your liking, your preferences, and your
mm-hmm,
consciousness.
mm-hmm,
And what I am finding is that the more we can just ask this thing on the internet questions and have an immediate answer that is so full of certainty and conviction and maybe
mm-hmm,
research,
mm-hmm.
the less self inquiry and critical thinking is taking place. And I don't think that was honestly there, Marcus, to begin with. And I'm not saying that in a rude way,
Mm-hmm.
um, because I'm certainly not blaming AI. I think
Mm-hmm.
AI has exacerbating it and basically like put a
I
mirror
totally
and an
agree with you. Yeah,
amplifier
it
to
is an
something that was
amplifier.
already there.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I think it's like really asking this question, Marcus, which is like a deeper question. Like, what does it take for us what does it mean to trust ourselves? What will it take? And what will it take to trust ourselves more than we're trusting the information that's being thrown at us, however research backed and fancy and legitimate it may look?
I'd love to take this as an invitation and to dive deep. Are you in?
I'm in.
Good.
You got to ask me the
You
question
mentioned
back though, because I'm a generator and I respond.
you mentioned something, critical thinking, right? And at the
Critical
same
thinking.
time, you said something quite provocative, that it most likely actually has not even been in existence before. So I believe when people hear critical thinking, it's almost like, oh, I'm doing critical thinking because I'm filtering all the information that's being provided. That's definitely not critical thinking.
Mhm.
I believe this is a very deep thing today, that people actually don't even know anymore how to think for themselves, how to
Yeah.
form an opinion. And if you think about, you mentioned safety, does safety connect with you or for you with know thyself?
Hmm.
Like I sometimes say to people I meet and as well as clients, don't be surprised that you do not trust yourself. Like, why the heck would you trust someone or something you do not know? And that is just a statement of mine, right?
Mm,
And then it wake up comes like, what do you mean? I don't know. Say, yeah, if you would know yourself, there would not be that much of doubt. There would not be that much of imposter syndrome, because there would not be a reason to doubt yourself to the extent you are.
hmm.
So I believe the Greeks' message, know thyself, is probably the deepest invitation today
Mm,
to
hmm.
really discover who you are. So tell me a little bit, how did you start out in terms of that journey of know thyself? Because I
Mm,
believe this is something that probably many men, but especially women, will be extremely grateful to hear
mm,
your
hmm.
journey about that.
Yeah. So the first piece that comes through as you're sharing, it's even when we talk about critical thinking, I want to even like refine it more, which is critical thinking about what you feel
Mm,
is a game changer.
mhm,
I see the critical filter sitting right in between the frontal cortex and
mhm,
the limbic brain. And I see the critical filter right there. It's like how you feel, what you think, how you feel, what you think. And a lot of us people, they we sit in the what we're thinking, especially if we've been very
mhm.
mentally trained.
Just in the
Uh,
Western world, right?
right.
Mhm,
But there's no like bridge between this
mhm,
is how I feel and let me think about it and then let me think about it and let me feel it and let me feel it and then
mhm.
think about it, and actually creating a whole brain experience of like right brain,
I
left brain,
like that.
thinking, feeling
Mhm,
of I am both. And when I think about critical thinking, I'm thinking about that filter being turned on and both brains collaborating together to make a decision
mhm,
and to actually view
mhm,
and see the world. Which
mhm,
brings us back to your question about how did I get started? I am thinking, I had to say, I'm like, the first thing that came through as I was about to answer that question is like, damn, this might be really unsatisfying to some people. Um, because how I got started on this journey is not something I consciously picked up and chose. It was something that chose me.
mhm,
When I think about it, it's always felt like a choiceless choice. And even, I write in my book, The Burning Ground, I read about the beginning of my journey towards this path of knowing who I am and actually like picking up the pen as the author of my story instead of being
mhm,
um, a character in the inherited story that I was giving up until that day.
mhm, mhm,
And the way that it started for me was this very pervasive question that many people, I'm sure, listening to this conversation have felt, which is this all there is?
mhm,
Is this all we've got here? And I honestly remember, as I shared before, I remember being like 5 and being like, this isn't life, right? This can't be human. This can't be what I signed up for. And I remember having like being a tiny, tiny little kid and being like, what the fuck is going on? Is anyone else seeing this? And so I think I was just born with this like, what the heck, people? Like, let's wake up and see the rainbow here because this is not the vibe. And then my life was a process of me being completely contorted into this box that I absolutely did not fit in. Rebelling against the box without knowing how to get out of the box, which is essentially my entire childhood through young adult life. And then classic hero's journey, like meeting a guide along the way who was like, hey, there's something to life that's out of this box. And the moment I figured out there was something to life outside of the box, I was like, the hell with it. I will like move whatever mountain I need to move to find out what's out of the box. And that relentless commitment and vision and just desire and fuel that is of the soul. It is not something I could have thought. In fact, my mind many times was like, what the heck are you doing? You are going to ruin it all. You're going to break everything. Nope. It's just like, you're coming along. And this whole time, it's just been, I'm getting out of this box. And as I got out of the box, like, I love you mentioned the Greeks, like Plato's cave. You're like, what? I've been looking at the shadows this whole time. Like, what is this? What is this sunshine? It hurts my eyes.
There's
But then
light.
as I acclimated to the sun and the earth and what's outside of that fucking cave, I started to ask myself better questions of how do I get out of the cave? It's like, what do I build now that I'm here? What do I do? How do I do it? Who do I do it with? So that's the metaphorical story. And then the full, like, nitty gritty detail story is inside of my book.
Love that. It's definitely worth reading. So let's go back to your childhood. And you mentioned something really interesting. So you basically preserved that innocence and that core Celine until the age of 5, maybe a little bit longer. And then the world started taking over and forming you into the formidable, right?
Yes.
Exactly. So
Is the
she
walls
fits.
pressing in.
Right. So she fits because she had
Yeah.
to fit
So she
in, right?
fits.
So I want to say something to everyone who listens. I believe this is not a unique story about Celine. I believe this is the unique story to every single person who's been born. Some have been fortunate to live like Celine and me as well. I was able to live like that until 9.5. That's why I was able to preserve what I have. But most people who are born are being socialized at a very young age. You know, those formidable years, 1, 2, 3, maybe 4. And if somebody can't bridge that 4 or 5, that's usually when they can't even remember having been someone else than who they are today. And I'm not sure, Celine, that I shared that with you, but when I began this show, it came to me. Like I wasn't searching for it. That was the last thing I wanted to have is a podcast or a show. So the title came Remembering the Forgotten. And then the subline was remembering who you were before the world taught you who you had to become.
Oh, I got
It,
chills. I love it.
you see how fitting that is to our
Yeah.
conversation?
Yeah, it's perfect.
And this is the reason, by the way, why I do this show and why I invite people who I know could not be further away from who they actually could be. But then I love to have conversation with someone like you who I know has done the work. But you're someone who can literally lead someone back to say, look, I was fortunate to be able to live until age of 5. But then society and everything else hit me as well. So I believe this is a beautiful role model which you demonstrate. So would you say it was gradually taking place or did it happen like almost like a hit? that society said, so Celine, you're at a certain age now, done. Now you need to
Mm-hmm.
conform.
Mm-hmm. No, it was like the metaphor. I think about the metaphor of putting the frog in the water and then you're slowly turning up the heat.
Mm.
You know, there's many examples of no, we don't say that. No, we don't do that. And you know, even living, I grew up in Rome, Italy, to a Brazilian mother and Italian father, and we migrated to the U.S. when I was 9 years old, 9 going on 10, and um many it's like, you know, and I came into the US not speaking a lick of English, like nothing about the culture. It was, I remember, I, it was just like these small things, like bringing my lunch from home was weird. The cool kids bought their lunch at the, you know, at the cafeteria, or wearing in Europe, it's totally okay to wear the same like shirt twice in a row, but it's not acceptable. You have to
Right.
wear something completely new. In the US, like just so such a small thing, like repeating outfits is not okay. But that those are just some micro examples of the ways that um I came into this like American dream bubble,
Mhm.
and very quickly, I understood that if I, as an immigrant, wanted to fit in, if I wanted to actually be accepted and make something of myself, and you know, also from a more, um, it wasn't just the cultural that I was in, but it was also the life at home that I really was very motivated to escape, and I wanted to
Mhm.
get out
Mhm.
of that life. And I realized that the my ticket out was for me to accomplish these things. And to me, that looked like go to a really good university, get a really good job, get out of my current situation, get financially independent so that I don't have to
Mhm.
depend on, you know, on just a dysfunctional situation at home.
Mhm.
And in that process, I just kept getting smaller. I kept getting quieter. I kept getting more contained. And as that pressure was building, just remember feeling so constrained. Like I was just in this tight little box wearing this tight, itchy sweater. And you know, I was having this thought, Marcus, just yesterday. I'm here in Spain, and um, I have a beautiful life, like an absolutely beautiful. Oh my gosh, that young version of me would have just been so, what the heck, are you even a real person kind of what life. And yesterday I picked up, I went to go to exercise in the morning. I slept in. I got my bicycle and I was riding through the park with the breeze in my hair. It's about a 10-minute bicycle ride all the way through the
Mhm.
park to my exercise class. And then I rode
Mhm.
back and I got a coffee from the local store. And I'm just kind of like, wow, I love this morning. It's such a beautiful morning.
Mhm.
I feel so good being here doing these things that I'm doing this morning.
Mhm.
And I literally had the thought of when I was living in New York City, just over 10 years ago, feeling like I would walk in the morning and I'd just be like, is something wrong with me? Like, what's going on? Am I okay? Is it supposed to be like this? I don't feel good. I don't feel happy.
It's fascinating. Tell me
And
more
not
about
knowing
that.
what the problem was. I didn't know what the
Mhm.
problem was.
Mhm. Mhm.
I didn't know that I wasn't like, why do I feel so stuck?
Mhm.
Why is it that I'm going from point A to point B to point C throughout the day and nothing seems to feel good?
Mhm.
Why is it that I just feel like on my edge all the time?
Mhm.
And when I reflect back at that time, which was essentially my entire life, up until, you know, when I moved to the US up until where the book begins, which when I
Mhm.
decided to leave my life in New York City and go on this circumnavigation around the world of a lifetime, I just lived like that every day. And I realized, Marcus, that people live like that every day.
Mhm.
And not just some people, a lot
Mhm.
of people. And
Mhm.
they don't know.
Mhm.
Like they don't know why it feels like they're in a tight sweater, and they certainly don't know how to get out.
Would you even say that they actually believe there isn't a more fitting sweater for them? That they literally have capitulated and said it's as good as it gets,
Yes.
right?
That's
So
it.
what would you say sits underneath that for you? Because, think about that. That capitulation, there's nothing else. It's as good as it gets. Basically means that's all I deserve.
Hmm.
But why
Hmm.
is it that society doesn't stand up, maybe in collective or in small groups, and say, do you feel the same? Am I the only one who feels like that? What do you think subdues that in society?
Oh, we're going deep down the rabbit hole. We're
Oh, we
borderline
are, my
touching. We're like
sister.
borderline
We
touching the
are.
conspiracy theories. Look, here's what I
It's
think.
all about personal
This is, I
opinions.
mean,
That's the
you're asking
beauty.
me about my opinion. I'm going to give my opinion. Doesn't mean
Oh,
it's the
that's what
all
I
be all be
want.
all. We are designed to conform. We're so we're going there. You want me to go there? I'm going to go there.
Absolutely.
So
Just let me let
what
me
I
let me ask you something. It's just that we are designed. Were we designed before we were born? Or is it society's design for us to
that's where
conform?
I was about to go. Um,
Thank you.
I believe we have a design, like there's basically, I'm gonna, in very rudimentary terms, it's like we have a manual, like how to be human. And somehow, somewhere, society cracked the manual. And somewhere, there was a group within society that's like, great, let us understand this manual so that we can design the kind of society that we want to create.
Mm,
And there's
interesting.
some very beautiful versions of the way that can be used. And there's also some very demonic versions of how that can be
Mhm,
used. But basically, if you think about humans, like we're as computer programs,
mhm,
as brainwashable, press these buttons and we become this thing. And if you just like feed us a certain, you put us in a certain environment and for a certain amount of time, you feed us certain belief systems or certain stimulus for a certain amount of time, we will adapt and become that
mhm,
which the environment, the stimulus, the rewards, the punishments asks of us.
mhm,
Then there are certain structures that can be put in place to basically create conformity inside of a societal structure.
mhm,
And so, as I have gone through my process of understanding how behavioral change works, how the human mind works, how the spirit works, my work and my studies span from like absolute obsession with neuroscience, psychology, like how does the brain actually work, all
mhm,
the way to shamanic energy studies and mystery
mhm,
school and things that are not available on the internet. And in that entire range of studies and experience, I have realized like, holy shit, we can undo this
mhm,
conditioning. We can deprogram ourselves to
mhm,
like release and let go of the conditioning and the cultural inheritance, the social economic inheritance that we were given since we were born. We can
mhm,
actually rewrite and let go of all of that and create and
mhm,
write a new story for ourselves.
mhm.
But just as equally, like it's quite um easy to be manipulated and brainwashed and you don't even
Mhm.
know it and you think you're freaking
It's much
smart.
easier, by the way. Much easier than
It's
to
much
start thinking
easier.
and
And you
feeling
think
for
you're
yourself.
smart.
Oh,
You
oh
think you're
yes.
smart, but the smartest
Yep.
people are the ones that are get
Yeah.
gotten. Even when you
Yeah.
look at cult psychology and you're like,
Right.
how did these incredibly intelligent people fall
Yeah.
into these horrific cults? And
Yeah.
it's like, well, the cult knows how to program someone's brain and they just continuously
Yeah.
create the structure. They use the instruction manual of how to program a human and they use it for their own agenda. And you do it again and you do it again and you do it again and you do it well. And there you have it, a cult. And someone completely loses who they are. Their soul completely disconnects.
So
So,
let's dive into what you just said, Celine. It's so beautiful because I waited until you actually come up with it yourself. So for the longest time, it was the brain, right? It's the washing of the brain. It's brainwashing. It's not heart washing. I never heard of heart washing. It's brainwashing. So especially in our Western culture, everything takes place up here, right? And then you mentioned the lost connection. You know what I'm alluding to?
no, tell me.
To your soul.
Yeah, it's a soul. Mm-hmm.
to your soul.
Mm-hmm.
Because I realized, I believe one of the reasons why I wasn't brainwashed, how I grew up, not as much as I could have had, was because the connection with my soul.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It never said yes. And I believe, when I talk about remembering who you were before the world told you what you had to become, I believe it is the place where the soul is seated. Like I know many people believe, it's in a God or it's in the universe or wherever. Actually, I believe the soul is our core. And especially if you remember like the picture when they take out diamonds from the earth, this deep crusted thing around it. So you don't even
Mm-hmm.
see the diamond. And this is how I feel most people actually walk through life. They're a diamond in a rough, totally encrusted. There is almost like a radiance blocker that everything takes place up here. And I believe your and my work is very similar. We actually remind our clients and the people we meet, hey, there is a diamond, and a diamond is the soul. And when
Mm-hmm.
people begin to realize, gosh, there is something I've totally forgotten, I believe that's when lives begin to change.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you alluded to something really terribly beautiful because there is a sadness and a hope behind it. That when you walk through New York, for example, that there is not much soul
That's right.
up here,
Mm-hmm.
all up here. And interestingly enough, you mentioned that question as well. Is I paraphrase it for a sec. Is this as good as it gets, or is there more to my life?
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
can tell you without fail, Celine, every single person who I've ever worked with came with that question in the forefront. Is this as good as it gets? Or is there more to my life?
Mm-hmm.
And I believe it's not a question of intelligence, by the way. It's a question of the soul. Literally, it's like, what the F? Haven't we suffered enough? How much more suffocating do you want to experience? This is literally not what I signed up when I decided to come here on Earth. Like, what the heck? And quite often, I'm not sure, did you actually get to the point where you have experienced illness?
Illness. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Oh, that's so funny you say that. I'm giggling because, well, yes, the short answer is yes, but literally a week ago, on my podcast, I released a case study with my doctor.
Oh,
And we did
yes,
a
I
case,
saw the
yes,
advertisement for it.
we did
Yeah.
a case study of how I healed my body completely from Lyme, Bartonella, and Babesiosis tick-borne disease in less than 18 months, which it sounds like 18 months is a lot, but for these specific markers, it's like, and my doctor was so like, how is this? I have never seen this before. Like my markers came out
Mm-hmm,
like it was never there when
mm-hmm,
I was
mm-hmm,
like going down under from it. And the in the podcast episode, I actually go deeper into she interviews me and she brings the science and I bring more of the
mm-hmm,
metaphysical.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And we talk about how I was actually the journey that I went on to actually go on a journey with the
mm-hmm,
illness
mm-hmm,
so that it could teach me and it could initiate me into who I was meant to
mm-hmm,
become. And as
mm-hmm,
soon
mm-hmm,
as I would learn the lessons, they would drop
mm-hmm,
off like Babesia it
mm-hmm,
left almost immediately. And then Lyme's
mm-hmm,
was like 6 months in, it was like mostly gone. And then Bartonella took a long time because there was
mm-hmm,
much more that I had to learn with it.
mm-hmm,
So yes, I have been in a position where twice I got really, actually, sorry, three times I got really sick in the last 10 years.
mm-hmm,
And each time this time, especially this last time, was incredibly powerful because I was able to really navigate with it in a way that left me much more empowered, and then created some very miraculous results on a like very scientific like
Mhm.
studies level, not to mention the internal world. Yeah.
Yeah, I could tell it must have been extremely powerful to do that work with your doctor,
Yeah.
combining the scientific and medical and your side.
The metaphysical. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I became my own
yeah.
best case study with it.
So that's definitely worth checking out for anyone who suffers from any illness, right?
Yeah, for sure. Oh,
Because
yeah,
honestly,
definitely go listen
I,
to that.
I don't believe we are meant to be ill. Yeah, having a cold sometimes, having a fever, it is a natural reaction of the body reacting to something intrusive. But other than that, all these immune illnesses we have today, I don't believe we're meant for that.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
has become so normalized. Like
And
honestly,
glorified.
I almost like glorified, right? It becomes an identity.
Yeah. That's the
Literally
trap.
becomes an identity. Gosh, it's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow. So speaking of people, Celine, and I want to be cautious and respectful of your time and mine. At the moment, there are a lot of people being totally overwhelmed with what's going on right now.
Yeah. It's
What would you
overwhelming.
want them to return to?
I think the first thing that I want to acknowledge is that it's okay, and like it is an overwhelming time to be alive. There's a
It
lot
really
going on. There's a
is.
lot of
Yeah.
information. There is way more technology data than we are biologically evolved
Hmm. Hmm.
to cope with. Like what is happening is a lot on the nervous system, um, on the brain, on our attention spans, so much. So that's the first thing is because, I was even speaking to an incredibly brilliant client the other day, and he's, you know, very successful, a very senior executive, and very intelligent man. And he's just completely in over his head as he's seeing what is actually unfolding in corporate America and in the world with
Hmm.
all of the developments, and the speed through which AI is developing and the threats that
Hmm.
it
Hmm.
presents in its development,
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
the way I would answer your question is very similar to the conversation that I had with him, which was, yeah, there's what you're looking at is not true, right? There's
Hmm.
data.
Hmm. Hmm.
There is a lot going on, and you are responsible for a lot of people and a lot of things,
Hmm.
and you want to do a lot of things. That's all true. So let's put it in one hand. Let's hold it loosely in one hand. And let's, in the other hand, also hold loosely that we are here. We're these human beings having these spiritual beings having this incredible human experience.
Hmm.
And if you are the creator of your life, if you are the one who's writing the story, what is the quality, what is the texture of the life that you want to be living right now? Even if
Hmm.
this thing that you're holding loosely in this hand is true, even if in a worst case scenario, we only have a couple of years to live,
Hmm.
and you really want to do something about that and you really want to help, how you help still matters. How you show up and do something about that still matters. The ways that you feel, the ways that you engage with your wife, your children, your family, it still counts. And if this thing that might happen happens in 20 years, then you just spent 20 years feeling all this fear weighing down your heart and this terror weighing down, troubling your heart. And if it never happens, well, then what was all of that for?
Hmm.
And so I think about it as how, when I get into these places of like contraction, what
Hmm.
I think about and feel, and the advice I would give to someone who's listening is like, just like, even as I say that, I felt my mula bandha just opening, like even my organs, like how do I just open it back up,
Hmm.
and how do I stay open to life?
Hmm.
And there's a contract. Okay, just breathe, just exhale and open back up to life and open back up to life and open back and practice. Speaking of safety, practice feeling safe in opening to life. Practice it trusting that you are here in this moment right now for a reason, and practice making a choice, which is really comes down to a question. And if you if you answer this question enough times, it will determine the entire trajectory of your life, which is, who am I here to be? And the answer to that question is the thing you're going to do next in response to whatever stimulus is hitting you in that moment, however challenging or stressful. In those moments, you are choosing who you are as a soul. So it's not this big, wide, yes, just connect to your soul and just be who you're really here to be. But very practically, it's like, watch the moments when you're contracting and getting really small. Pause, breathe, exhale, open. Just a moment of trust. Pause. Who do I want to be right now? Make a decision and be that person. That's it. That's all you can do right now.
You mentioned something beautiful. Thank you, Celine. You mentioned exhale.
Yeah.
And people I meet, I often tell them, start with an exhale. Don't inhale first, exhale. Because that's when the tension goes out. Like, think about being tense already and then inhale, it already constricts because, we breathe up the chest, right? But if we just exhale and let it go, that's when we can inhale again, and then the natural process happens. So it's beautiful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, welcome.
So before we go, Celine, what are you taking away from this conversation?
How simple and practical it is to be connected to soul. Yeah. I mean, it's what I take away, what I'm being reminded of. And even as I have these really deep conversations and we go down the rabbit holes, I think it's so important to just bring it back to what's simple. And that to me is simple. Like when we're talking about connection to soul and whether you had it or didn't have it when you were a child, it doesn't freaking matter, because it really does come down to one moment, one choice, one breath.
With that, thank you so much for this conversation, Celine.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's been a great pleasure. This was Remembering the Forgotten. As you move on, notice what might have quietly remembered. Ask yourself for a moment, what if the thing holding us back is not a lack of capability, but a system that has been carrying too much for too long? And if that's true, what if nothing important about you was ever lost? And yes, there are moments where you can feel the answer is already here, but you can't quite reach it. And then, as mentioned, something shifts and suddenly it's simple. No force, no second guessing, no internal negotiation, just a clear sense of what's next and the capacity to move. If something shifted, let it stay. A few quiet pointers are waiting below.